This is Journeys of Empowerment, a space where we slow down enough to notice what shifts. Where founders and leaders speak honestly about the turning points that changed how they see themselves, their work, and the impact they want to have. I'm your host, Michiel Soetjiet. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to acknowledge our sponsor. Imagine this. You have rolled out the new process. The expectations are clear, and still adoption stalls. The behavior does not follow. Often, it's not the strategy that is missing. It's understanding what's actually reinforcing behavior in the day-to-day conversations between managers and the teams. Reinforcer.ai analyzes those everyday leadership conversations and show managers concretely what reinforced the right behavior, that missed the mark, and what to focus on next time. Built on proven behavioral science, it makes behavior change practical and measurable inside the flow of work. If you're curious what your daily feedback is truly reinforcing, you can explore reinforcer.ai. And now, let us turn toward today's guest. What changes when you stop living on autopilot and start paying attention to what your body is quietly telling you? In this episode, I sat down with Eva Luna Poorthuis, founder of Eva Luna Lifestyle and a women's health advocate, and someone who chose consciousness over compliance when her body began whispering that something was off. At 18, she was navigating mood swings, headaches, bloating, and a deep sense of not feeling like herself. The solution offered was heavier medication and stress reduction, but something in her resisted that narrow frame. So she began her own inquiry into hormones, cycles, and lifestyle. What started as self-study became a calling, guiding women back into relationship with their bodies, their rhythms, and their self-worth. We explored slow, systemic change in women's health, the difference between fixing symptoms and understanding them, how body image shapes identity, and how grief and loss sharpened her awareness that time is not to be wasted. One sentence stood out: life is too short to live it on autopilot. And this one landed hard. Awareness of your body is not indulgent. It's the foundation of agency. If you have been pushing through, numbing out, or postponing yourself, maybe this conversation is an invitation to pause. Let's begin. Welcome, Eva Luna, to Journeys of Empowerment.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
We had a little laugh because the first question is always a little challenging, trying to invite you to look at the future and at your future, and to help us understand and shape a sort of vision. Who do you aspire to become?
As I said, it is a big question, and of course always in transition, I believe. So I stated from what I believe now. Mm-hmm. I hope I can be an influence for women's health. So be an investor, for instance, for developing research and engaging more female-friendly tools within women's health. I think I really want to make impact in that scene, because I think the change that happens right now is too slow, and I hope to fasten it a little bit. So that's work-wise, and I just talked with you on private part as well, and I think I also want to be the adventurous woman in the mountains in Canada with my family, raising them up in the woods and just enjoying life there, just getting back to the nature a little bit more. And from my inner perspective, I think share the wisdom that I gained and the lessons that I gained, so people have a easier time to step over it or go through it, than just having all the struggles and doing all the research for years. I hope to share my own story and the things I experienced, so they learn from it faster and maybe can do something from there.
And earlier in their lives.
Yeah.
Instead of going through all the struggles and lived experience, Wow, thank you very much for sharing. And I just introduced to you the new way of approaching the conversation. It will be non-scripted and it will stay non-scripted, yet we have a mutual agreement on our Northern Star through the conversation, reclaiming agency to consciousness. And that is out of an analysis of our previous conversation. But why do you think this came up as a theme?
I think it's one of my themes. I think getting more conscious of the way I live, the way I have my habits, my patterns. And I think consciousness is also in women's health as well, from my work experience. That you are more aware of your body and what you feel and how you work. So consciousness is, I think, it's one of the key points in human beings to really feel presence in this life and enjoy and feel happiness without all the things that we think we need. I think that's about it.
When you're talking about consciousness, it's easy to think that I understand what you mean by it. On the other hand, there's always a danger of a big assumption we're making. So what for you, what is your definition or your opinion about consciousness?
Well, how the way I see it, it's about being aware of your own feelings and your own thoughts, being aware of where others are at that moment, being aware of what you feel in the environment, the energy which is there, also what you bring with you. So, well, for me, it's not a big trauma, I guess, but trauma with a little t. But all the patterns and things you gained as a little child, and that you can actually grab your little Eva for me and grab her by the hand and know that she's also still with you. And consciousness is also thinking about the world at the moment and how you see it and perceive it, and that's about how I see it.
And also being present, what you just said, and being present in the moment, taking conscious decisions for our well-being also, right?
Yeah.
You mentioned also in looking to the future, the change you would love to see and that it's not going fast enough. Before we dive into your personal journey, what is the change you would love to see? And also, how do we determine that it's not going fast enough? What do we have to understand about that?
Yeah. Well, as when I met you, I spoke at the Women's Health event, and I talked about Woman Inc. that did actually research about this, like how fast are we going within the women's health change scene, and what do we see right now? And then it was even more than I'd said that day. It was about like 2019 that we will be in the same level as men. And I read this like 2 years ago, and I find that really like shocking. And I also notice it because, of course, things are improving and there's still more research coming and things are getting better. But still, what I see is it's there, like, it's hard to like just pinpoint one thing. So I try to mention a few things that I see. One thing is that now you have that man, either woman scene, whereas I think you should involve men and also teach them a little bit more and help them understand women a little bit better.
Agree.
I think there's the scene where women haven't been taught about themselves, so I think we should change that too. So all from the start, high school or whatever, teach about the cycle, about women's health, about safetyness around each other, all those things. I think that's one key point. And I think it's also about how we treat women, how we perceive them, how we talk to them, also how we talk to ourselves and each other. I think that's a really important thing. And that's from an ideal body standard, how it looks like, for instance, or how the media is like putting women aside and just mentioning them like in a little small box. I think it starts with communication as well. And then I also think in my field, it's about like female-friendly tools, way faster research and taking women seriously. Also on the work environment, change the 9 to 5 and think about like, okay, men and women are different. How can we change that environment, which is a big change, I think, that should be made then.
Yeah, accommodate differently also.
Yeah. So what I tend to see now is there's a lot of talking, which is good. But I would love to make the step towards, okay, how can we actually think about the change? How can we actually make that change faster? What do we need from that? And I think we need to do it together. Men as well, female.
It's a lot.
Yep.
Where should we begin? After the talking, while we're talking, in all the conversations where we met, at Women's Health at the Workplace event, where you were one of the panelists, and I really love being surrounded in the environment, having those proper conversations, and it's all, of course, there's a lot of resonance, and luckily the male ally group is growing. Slowly but surely, and but where should we begin?
Well, the first step is of course awareness, and like sharing the thoughts and how we are feeling. I think step 2 is actually try to align women and men together and see how we can change it from both perspectives. And it depends on the environment, of course, how we can change that. So that's, for instance, on a work environment, I think it would be, and this is a hard thought, and I still think about it, how we can do that. But I think it's an organizational culture and structure that you have to change, which is already mostly starting with males in the top.
Yeah.
I think you have to think about that already and then make plans to change that. But that's about breaking systems, about patterns, about... It takes a lot because people have to be aware, have to be conscious about it. It's about limiting beliefs, how they perceive. So after the conversation, and if that is changed, then you can make the improvements, I guess.
And as we know... it all starts with creating small micro habits and the compounding effect in order to ultimately have sustainable change, to make sustainable change. You mentioned also a future aspiring investor in research. What research would you love to invest in the most?
Of course, for now it would be the medical system, and especially like how women are treated with medication or whatever it is. But also just like, from my perspective, it can be a little bit more preventive. Like, that's my vision, if you are checking women earlier, but also men, of course.
But there's no business case for preventive, so...
No, so I would invest in that, of course. Yeah. I think an important thing to invest in is also like education, that is all spread wide abroad, not only in the Western culture, but also in other cultures and world parts. So it's diverse.
You know it's not scripted, but I have a question.
Yeah.
And that is, if you had to write a book, what would be the title and what would be, top line, the outline of the book?
I have some ideas already.
Oh.
I'm gonna not share one because I know if I'm gonna share it, I don't know what happens. So I keep that one for myself.
Okay.
But if I would just write one on this specific theme, then it would be something what we were never taught about being a woman and how we can actually gain strength from it, like and feel better and have more energy and
to understand from the female perspective your own body better.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm asking also is, are you then, and it's hypothetical, of course, but are you then aiming for, you met my daughter, India, 19 years old, from more in the earlier age, or are you thinking from now? What are you thinking about?
I think about, 90, 21, a little bit around that time. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of questions now. Question marks while navigating from puberty to adolescence to
big breath.
So okay. Hey, why do you care so much? It's easy to assume, you're a woman, you're navigating through life, but why do you care so much?
Of course, that's also my experience. So I care because...
and where does that come from?
Yeah, I care because for me, when I discovered, I had a few symptoms like mood swings, headaches, constant bloating, really didn't feel like myself. I was around 18 back then. And then you get this feeling like, okay, there's might be something wrong. But you already pushing yourself through because you think okay, maybe it's normal. And then on one point you're like, okay, maybe after a year I will go to the doctor. And then you go there with a lot of vulnerability and questions. And the only thing they say is take a heavier pill, antidepressants, or just stress less. And it's okay, well, some people are, okay, I will do that, but I already had a feeling that there would be something wrong, and I was then this would be the solution, and I was already a little bit doubting the pill as well, because when I was 14, 15, I got the pill just oh, I have a boyfriend, okay, he should go on a pill, and it was a standard thing, and when you are developing and you get older, you're why did I take that actually? Not that the pill is wrong, because I also know it does a lot of things right, and for some females it really works for symptoms. But just being aware of that there was no conversation about it, or what it could do, or how it could impact you, leaves a lot of question marks, and also a little bit doubt in okay, why did this happen this way? Not well informed. Also, my mother, she's really a lovely woman, but she never taught me about it as well. And then I was okay, the doctor cannot help me. My symptoms are still there. I want to improve it. I'm really I was already sporting and having nutrition-wise some good marks, but also not some good marks. And then I was okay, let's dive into hormones and my cycle and anti-conception. And then I just found out that there's a whole different world when you understand that. How my body works, how I perceive things, how it can shift throughout the month, and that it's not a fixed line where I am in my life, I really force myself and pushing hard work. And then understanding this made a whole shift for me. But then a little bit more further away, I started coaching as well, and I experienced that a lot of women experience the same thing, and a lot of symptoms, and a lot of like pushing through and not understanding themselves, and therefore they are not happy. Relationships are like sometimes really destructive or not really as they would like to be. And it's really sad because to see women actually struggle through these things and have no understanding at all
what's happening inside
inside of them was for me like, okay, I have to change it. Because if the doctor is not able to help you or at least inform you, there should be a way. And it should not be something that is like just a standard fix. It should be one thing that would be a really individual approach and is about understanding yourself. And that's my why, because I really believe, I can also start with men, but I really believe that if you as a woman understand how you work,
how your body
works, but also how you work in mental and emotional well-being, what your boundaries are, how you are feeling, and also how that is shifting throughout the month, the better the connection will be, and the better the communication will be, and the better you will thrive in your life. And that's for me the why, because I think there are a lot of people under the line surviving in a world. We have everything if you want to, and still how can you be so unhappy? I think that's really sad, because life is short, and especially if you things happen in life, you are really aware of like life is really short. And please don't be the person that is on your bed at 90 almost dying and you're like, oh, I should have done this, or I should have told this, or no, that's for me, no.
Did you read the book of Bronnie Ware about the 5 regrets of the dying?
I haven't read it, but I saw a lot of podcasts about it.
Okay, yeah. Made me. And one question about your doctor back then. Was it a man?
It was a man, yeah.
It might be also very helpful to involve also, make the group even larger, but also involve the doctors. And well, at the university, what kind of education do we get? And all the research in medication is centered around men, and it's predominantly. Hopefully, it's changing.
It's changing already. But it's a good point, because that's always when I tell this story, I also correct myself, because it's not that the doctor is always wrong. They have been taught about this, and they have protocols and how they should do things, and this is the easiest way, because this is how the system fix things. They fix symptoms, and they do it throughout medications and sometimes a little bit more help, but not through lifestyle. There's no time for that. There's no preventive side on that.
Yeah, and also in the past, luckily we're shifting. Also, it's a perspective. It's a perspective. It's a mindset. It's the way we look through the world. But in Dutch we say geneeskunde. So, and you're only curing afterwards. So you first have to be ill. In some sort of way, and then we're trying to cure it. And medicine are ways when something is, quote unquote, wrong.
Yeah.
And now shifting to prevention, what is the business case behind it? And that's also the struggle. Where does the money flow and go? There is, and that's still a lot into, well, not prevention, but in the cure.
Yeah.
So I think we should. It's a societal shift we have to make.
Yeah,
I believe that.
Yeah, and I think it's from a lot of. It's so multi-broad, so there's a lot of perspective where you have to start from. So it's like changing how we learn things and teach children about it, and it's also about changing, of course, the healthcare system, which is like of course, also a little bit like, where does the money go? Which I have no understanding of, because it's so complex.
It is.
I have an idea about it, but I don't know if it's correct. So I only think logically, like, okay, how should it be a little bit like? I read the things that have been written about, but then again, yeah, there's so much there. And on the other perspective, I have my husband that is in preventive longevity care and how they do testing. And I see, like, sometimes there are clients, they come in and they do an echo on the artery, and then you see like, oh, you're like, if you don't do anything right now, you will be dying at your 50s probably, because it's like slipping. And then I'm like, oh, this is really why we should change the system, because you can actually save lives. And that's for me insane.
I still believe that pre-scan is not covered by our insurance. And so those kind of prevention, and it's already a long time in business, but in those kind of things should be in place, right?
Yeah. I had a client in Austria, and they have checks every half year and every year. And I was like, okay, why don't we have those systems yet? And then I to make a comment, pre-scan is not even the best.
No.
I mean, if you look at and this is maybe a promotion thing, but
no, just
if I look at
ahead.
how they do it in my active age in the longevity scene, it's like checking the blood, checking the scans, checking the artery on echoes, checking how they live.
I think your husband is really proud of you right now.
Yeah, but I really believe in it, because I see what they do and how they improve lives, but also because it's like he has this dashboard where you can check it everywhere. It's also that people see it and then they want to change, because when you say like, oh yeah, you're a little bit fat, yeah, then nobody changes in the end, but they get this belief and they will always be in this diet struggle, you know, as where you say like, oh, your cholesterol is on this perspective and it will do this damage when you're 70, and this will happen, that this will cause you things, how you do things with your granddaughter or whatsoever, then it's a whole different like conversation.
It's like a sort of VR image of, okay, this is going to be terrible if you move forward in the same way. So you have to change your habits and you have to change the lifestyle. Yeah. We love that word, right?
Yeah, but it's like not from a fear-based perspective, but more from a, like, how do you want to live your life also when you are older? You don't think about that. I think that's really important. And to bring the conversation back to female health then, I think it's also about that. Because, like, for instance, when we turn 50, then we start with checking the breast if we have breast cancer. And I'm like, why? That's so old age.
You're touching upon a very fundamental point, I think. And also, if I'm looking into my memory in all the events we were, and you are, where does the conversation start with the question, how would we, or what would be the preferred life expectancy and longevity? I never been on a women health or men's health or whatever health event where I've been, and starting point is trying to help people imagine or envision the desired outlook of their lives in terms of personal health.
I agree.
Maybe that would be an interesting starting point.
I think it's a whole different perspective where you start the conversation from. Definitely.
Wow.
Because if you are saying this, then my thoughts are shifting to, like, we are talking, but we are still talking about the symptoms and about, like, labels, which helps to navigate, but then still, you know, I think that's the step.
But we have to, well, luckily we can give Kasia from Embrace Health, formerly Mama Moon, a hint, Kasia, my dear friend, if you're listening. Let's start trying to envision, okay, but what do you desire from life when it comes to your health? And then reverse engineer, okay, think about when should we start checking a lot of things, not only waiting for, oh yeah, now we're 50 or now we're this age, in a much earlier stage of our lives, and becoming more conscious, right?
Yep.
Making more conscious decisions, being more aware about long-term implications of our behavior and habits. Eva Luna, if we look at your life, because it's of course not only about women's health, but also about your personal journey, it isn't the easiest path you could have to really, you are a sort of trailblazer. And where does that fuel come from? Where does that fuel underneath and your why, where does that come from? And why is that, why did you deliberately make the choice to walk this path?
Yeah, I have thought about it a lot of times. And it's not that there's like one thing that I can pinpoint. But I read something, I don't know what I read, but it really resonated. Some people are just like, they have this feeling that they have this mission to do on this world, and no matter what it costs, they will do it because they feel it in their bones. And that's, it sounds really like abstract, but for me it's like going through my own personal development. Of course, that's a fire pit, and my mom that got sick and my grandma that died all together made me realize like I was living a life in a rushed, working hard environment and didn't really was present in life and enjoying life. So that's also like a pivot moment. Mm-hmm. But still, I don't know, I just feel like this. And you see my fist, and you don't hear, you cannot see it. So I will say I have this like inner drive to like, oh, this is not normal. We should not normalize. We have to change this, because like, I just hate that box where we are just putting women, but also men, of course, but where we always put ourselves in. And it's like, in so many ways, it's like making us so small. And like, I hate the fact that there are so many women also like not really staying true to themselves, walking on their toes. And I know, of course, it's also from how they grew up, but still then it's like, oh, I hate that feeling that we are living a life that is like not like our lives. It's not like, it's, I just hate that, and I would like to change that, because I think, like, as I experience myself, but also what my thoughts about that, life is just too short. You just have one time. And when I am with my coaching clients, I always say like, how old do you want to get? And they're like, 80. And then I'm like, okay, you're 30 now. You have 50 summers left. And then they're like, what? 50 summers? And it's like, oh my God. Then it's like, then you realize like, although if you're living in Mexico, of course, then you have a lot of summer, but they realize like, oh my God, what am I doing, But that's about like how it's a little bit an illustration of how short life is. And then realizing that you're always pleasing other people, always have such a high responsibility, not looking after yourself, just rushing and pushing through. It's like such a waste. And that's for me the why I am doing this, because of course I have my own limiting beliefs as well, and I'm 31. I know after 20 years I'm still like, oh, I was not so conscious back then, but still then I have this feeling like, oh, there's so many beautiful things about the world, and how you can actually feel, and how you can be kinder to each other and help each other. And yeah, that's my drive.
You got me curious. And I feel the intrinsic motivation here. Your eyes lit up, and but the fire is really like, okay. But there's also a sort of injustice feeling.
Yeah, I didn't came up the word, but that's
because that's
the word. I hate injustice.
And the boxing and the playing down, playing small.
It's all
about a little bit
injustice.
Oppressing and injustice. Yeah. Now we're going to have the conversation with the questions with you. How often are you having this conversation with yourself? How old do you want to be? How do you want to live? Those kind of questions. How often do you do that with yourself?
Well, to be honest, I do that quite often. Not every day, but I think I have the thought at least one time a week. Thinking about how do I want to build my life? Am I still doing the right things? Even though I'm not always putting in action, No. But still, I'm really aware of that. And of course, for the listener, my mom died 6 months ago. So my priority on that is higher now. Because everything is stripped apart. Like I am missing a piece of my mom. I will not get it back. And it's like an emotional shift where you are really conscious and aware of that life is short then, and it's like a reminder that will live with me every day and every year. And I hope I'm really grateful for her that she gave me that lesson. That sounds really weird, of course, because I would love her to be here, but then I'm really grateful that she just taught me you should live the life, I'm an example of why you should do it. Yeah.
Memento mori.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And there's a huge age difference between you and me, and I'm only this year. It's a sort of the beginning of this year, and we're still in the first part of this year. I became very conscious about, ultimately about death, and really consciously thinking about it. I was always challenging with my unhealthy coping mechanisms, challenging it really big time. And dear listener, I will elaborate on it when Kimo Kamara is going to interview me in my podcast. He's the guest he's the host in Journeys of Empowerment, and I will for sure open up about my personal journey and story. So for now, drum roll, I am no spoiler alert. But it made me conscious, and also by reading the book I've just mentioned, the 5 Regrets of Dying. But also I've read another book from a very special friend, and it's Tuesdays with Maury, and it was about the weeks before the dying of a terminal professor and one of his students. And his students was living a very fast life and high achievement and never resting and always, the next meeting and the next call and the next bonus and the next achievement and so forth and so forth. And then his old professor, which made a profound impression in his life, had an interview because he was world famous, and he gave an interview, and that interview came on his radar, and he thought okay, I have to visit him, but still in his rush, so picking up the phone until he was in the front door by his old professor, and that made him realize, okay, I have to slow down. I have to, and so I'm now becoming more, not curious, but more aware of the, and also appreciation of life and each and every day. think we should have that conversation also much more on a conscious level, instead of, well, we fear death, right? But yeah, the moment we are born, we every day closer to our death. So why not have a proper conversation about it? And it makes a lot of more things, put it in perspective. So thank you very much for your openness, but also I hope for our listeners, there is only one life, and it's our choice what we are going to get out of it and how we're going to be of service. And how are you? And you were helping your clients with Eva Luna Lifestyle, right? What is the starting point of when do people reach out to you with what sort of questions?
Well, it's mostly a combination, but what I tend to see is that they have some symptoms, sometimes cycle-based, sometimes more emotional-based, like really mood swings and picky and not feeling themselves. And they already like went through a long time with it. And then on one point, they probably saw something from me where they're like, that's me. You know, like, oh, it's not normal, or like, you know, and that's when they like book an appointment or have a call or a chat. They always have like this, they don't feel like themselves anymore. Their lives are changing and they feel like there's like this little layer on it. They don't feel that happy even though they have everything. That's a little bit the starting point.
Sort of out of tune.
Yeah, out of tune with themselves, yeah.
With themselves. Mm.
And the connection is they don't trust their body anymore because they have symptoms. They don't know why it is there. They already tried to do yoga or eat healthy or whatever they tried, but it's not working. It's not staying. It's not lasting. And that's when they come.
Mm. And then what? Because I'm really curious. Also, I'm a father of daughters, 3 daughters, 19, 15, and 11. So really curious, and it's for me a sort of crash course on steroids. So help me understand. Then they come to you, they reach out, book an appointment. And where is the beginning and the ending of your services? What are you offering?
Yeah. The beginning starts with just optimizing their lifestyle first, because that's like the solid ground where they get their nourishment from. But they won't fix the patterns and the like really rusted things they do in life, which also cause them like symptoms and don't feel like themselves. So then we start more on the emotional and mental health part, which is not a standard like thing I work on. It's like individual based. So see it as a little bit freestyle coaching there. I like to work that way. Of course, I have my methods and where I gain my tools from. But then we dive into who they are. So that's where my trajectory name is based on. It's called Female Identity, and it's about like their identity, about how they work as a female, understanding themselves better, but also integrated in their lives. So being aware of how they live their lives, being aware of the things they do, and are they still happy with that, or do they want to change it? And then I also, like, my program is really based on, I will give you a solid ground, so you will not doubt yourself anymore, you will not like fall over all those Instagram traps about supplements and collagen and whatever. You have a solid ground where you can always get back to yourself. But know you have these patterns and you will always come across them again. But I want to teach you that you know them, you understand them, and you know what to do. Because they will be there, but you decide if you listen to it and act on it or not. And I want to give them the bridge so they can make that shift.
And they can make an alternative choice instead of in the default mode slipping back to old, not so working habits and patterns, right?
Yeah.
Can you give an example of now I'm really getting curious because I'm a father of 3, and I guess hopefully also my audience of an example which you hear most often, which is really a tough one.
There are a lot, to be honest. But the clients I help, there are like some themes that are always connected. So we have the body image of how they should look like, and it's always about losing weight or want to look better, which is never about their looks. It's always about how they feel inside. So how I work on that is really teaching them what a body needs and how you could nourish it, and what it will do to your energy and what it will do to how you look and feel. I think that's a really important thing, and that's not about a like number, which we have been taught. Like, if you have a BMI of this, then you're healthy. No, that's not where health is about. That's not about how you feel. So that's something I teach is. That's one theme. I think it's also my own theme of rushing and pushing through, not listening to what you're actually feeling. And most women I teach are really sensitive. They feel a lot. It depends on where they are, but sometimes it's not even theirs. So I teach them, like, what do you actually feel? And what do you need in that moment? And can you actually act on it as well? And not ignore it and pushing through because there's this standard where you have to meet yourself or whatever others. So that's really about setting your own terms and living your own life. That sounds really individualized, but then I have the second step, and that's about relationships. Because what I believe is, if you really learn about yourself and you know yourself, if you have a better connection with yourself, you have a better connection with others.
Amen.
And then you can communicate with your partner and your child, and you are there. And that's for me the next shift. So that are quite some things I tend to see, and of course pleasing, high like standards, setting high standards. Yeah, a lot of expectations. Not even knowing if it's true.
And what is one of the most nagging, limiting beliefs you see in your practice coming by?
I'm not worth it. I have to think about some clients. I think I'm not worth it. Like about not feeling seen and heard. Yeah, I think those are really important.
I think it's almost a universal.
I think so too.
Human universal.
Yeah. I think in the end it's always collective.
No.
And you can feel it.
I feel it now. And you see that happening.
Yeah.
It is. Not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy enough, not feeling seen, heard, appreciated, understood, listened to. Do I matter?
Yeah.
As a parent, I'm a parent, apparently, and what do I need to understand while raising girls, different ages? It will be always a work in progress and a learning curve, and luckily, thank God, I've daughters who are very forgiving because, well, luckily we can grow, and I'm growing in a steep curve right now, being a more present father, more in tuned of their specific needs, individual needs, because no child is the same. But what do you think, especially also fathers need to understand about raising and being responsible for growing girls?
There's some things that I can mention. Try not to think in solutions, but listen and be there. That's the first rule, which is already really hard because you want to help or you want to do your best for them. I would say don't try too hard. Just be there and listen. And then ask questions. Like, what do you think you need right now? Or how can I support you in this phase? I think it's about just listening and ask questions and help them understand themselves if they are younger. And also help you as a father understand them as well. Which isn't like if you have that conversation one time, okay, that's on that moment, but it will change throughout the years. So I think it's about investing time, getting to know each other better, and in tuning, what do you need, and also what can you give as a father, and also know your limits, But try to be there, listen. I think that's the first step.
That's a good one also that you mentioned, thank you. Because when you're talking about limits, what do you believe as a father are limits?
Well, I'm not a parent yet, so I find that a really hard question. It depends on the culture, of course, as well. I think you have to look at those things as well. I don't know, actually, because I think that I find that a hard question. Because the thing is, I think if you're really an open-minded family, you can have a conversation about the topics that you do talk about or that they don't want to talk about. Mm. And maybe they can decide a little bit where they want to navigate that. Of course, it's easier when they are older than when they are younger. I think the key ingredients would be, as a mother and a father, if you're still together, function as a team. And being aware helps, and being conscious and be there helps to feel the energy and just look at your child and what do you see. I think that's really important.
I think this is a very important point that you mentioned, and for me it's about creating a psychological safe environment.
Yep.
In which conversations will flow and will feel natural. And yep. Also, sometimes the questions can be awkward, but because of the fact that there is safety, it is a difficult question. That's why it became a question in my head, in my mind. I was like, hey, but I hear you say limit, and I was like, what would be the limit? But it's also, I truly believe in safety, in creating environments also, and that's not only in a family situation, but also when we're having the events where we're at. I truly believe in this sort of safety, that we feel open, ask questions, also men asking questions. I moderated a round table, and I thought bringing more men into the conversation. That was my round table assignment. But and I got the question, why are you so interested? Why, and not a critical question, but a really interested question, but Michiel, why do you care so much? And that really made me pause and reflect. And I was like, the first question, the first answer, why do I care so much about women's health? is my default is I'm a father of 3. And of course, my partner is also, of course, but my partner is also a woman. But the question made me pause and reflect even deeper. And that was that my birth mother gave me an opportunity for life. Also a better chance for life by giving me away for adoption. When I was 10 days old, and I believe her life force. So it's also sort of out of her sort of responsibility that I'm so openly advocating for women's health. What would be the message to the man listening to our conversation? How can we get them into the equation more?
I think if I want to activate them, it's about like, it makes your life easier.
Hey, dear man, this is.
But then that's like just really like a motivational thing. But I think in the end, it will make you happier. It will make your wife happier. But it's not only about happiness, it's just like it will help to really feel connection and really understand each other. And I think what I always say, like, we are different. Women and men are biologically really different. That's a fact. But we are equal. And that's a different perspective. And I think we have to consider as men, we are equal even though we are different. And I think from that perspective, try to understand your woman or the women around you better, because it will help. It will help on so many levels, and it in the end it will make your life easier because you understand them better. It will also give you a better feeling, because sometimes a lot of men can feel like they are doing everything wrong, and sometimes you do, but on most parts it's also about just understanding themselves better.
I love that. Yeah, but sometimes, man, sometimes I hear them say, and I'm like always a little bit cringing, yeah, a happy wife is a happy life. And I'm like,
yeah, but that's when I'm like, oh, that's indeed cringy, because then I'm like, where's your identity? You know, so it's, and that's the thing why I always say, like, it's not just about women only, because then it's like, the feminist way and the standard, and we are at the top. That's why I say it's about equality. We are equal. It's about understanding themselves better, understanding them better, and then try to connect. Because in the end, of course, men have their own things as well. And it's also about understanding, for instance, my boyfriend better, my husband better. And if I get a son, I have no idea yet. But then it's also about understanding them better. But I know... And
also educate.
Yeah,
vice versa, educate well. Also on the women part, right?
Yeah. And I think I think the safety thing is really important. Like,
you just revealed something, eh?
Yeah.
Do you recognize it?
What did I? Yeah. You mean?
Yeah.
yeah. But I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I know, and there will be for sure no cut and paste in our podcast conversation, no editing at all. So, how many weeks?
10.
10 weeks. Ooh.
Yeah.
Hey, and in your relationship, you're very proud of your. You're married, eh?
I'm engaged.
Okay.
So it's like boyfriend, husband, something in between.
Okay, so it's a liminal stage. Are you having actively conversations about? Because you know what they say, the plumber has a leaking toilet at home. The painter has last 15 years nothing done at their own home. Do you have also the proper conversations at home about women's health?
We do. If I ask him questions about how the cycle works, he will answer really weird questions. Like he give really weird answers, but I like that. He doesn't have to know the whole cycle for me, like which name the luteal phase is. But he knew I was pregnant because he said, normally you have this day where you have this cravings, and you want to have everything. And I was like,
That's it.
That's it, And that's like... He knows right now if I'm... Well, now I have my no luteal phase. But when I do, he knows that like my energy is shifting, and he will help me a little bit more in the household. And it's not like I will say to him, I'm luteal, although it's in the agenda. So he will also see it. But he does it. I don't have to ask, because that's already like a big step for me in that phase. And that's about communication, because of course I told him about like, I think I would need something like this, and he would be answering like, I can give you this, or I can try to do this. And then you grew together into that. And that's for me, our toilet is not leaking. It's properly working, but the theory is not really like in there, but that's fine.
That's fine. No,
that's fine.
That's fine. No, but you are attuned and you have a conversation, and there's a sort of mutual respect, and it's a teamwork, right? And Eva Luna, we're heading a little bit towards the end of our conversation, and we've spoken about, your future aspirations. With your why is very clear, and underneath there is a strong advocacy, but also fuel and fire when it comes to inequality, when it comes to the position of women towards and men, and the disbalance in that. Also, we spoke about the research and where the money flows, and also about prevention versus curing. And if we have to try to get a mission out of it, what would be your desired mission you're on?
Hard one. I think, you can start everywhere, but I think when the listener is listening this, just start with a pause. To like, you have listened to the conversation. If you made it through here, then thank you for that. And I think there's so much information and talking, but also reflect and take time to like, okay, what does that, like, how can it like impact my life, or how can I make a change, or does it resonate? And then see from there if you can make a step, even though it's not a big one or it's just in your circle. I think that's the mission. I really believe start with yourself, so it will slowly spread, and we have the ripple effect. Yeah. And I'm not really pro individualization. I think we really need each other, but I think it always starts with yourself first.
And individual specific needs, although we're a collective and universe, and we're interconnected. We have also our specific bodily, mind, and everything, which is an individual configuration, right? First, figure your own configuration, and it's all in on itself a work in progress, and it is difficult. It's challenging enough.
Yeah.
Last question. If I gave you a magic wand and you can make one strike, what would be tomorrow different?
Oh. I think it's a really hard one, but I don't know. I think it's a really hard question. But I think it's sometimes it's just about what your first thought is, and I'm sure this is not really a smart thinking, but I would strip a lot of things away and get back to base again. But not the patriarch base, but just like that we have enough basic needs that are met and that we start off equal. That we rewire the brain as that we are equal. And see from there.
Beautiful. Don't you think? Beautiful. It comes from the heart. Wasn't an easy question, eh?
No. But you don't ask the easy questions, but that's fine.
No, but this is fundamental. What you just said. For me personally, it's fundamental. Strip everything back. Essence. Close by heart. Start from there. Start from within. Listen to yourself. Pause and reflect. Eva Luna, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and for being present with this conversation. If something in this episode stayed with you, consider sharing it with someone who might need it right now. And if you choose to subscribe or leave a short review, you help these conversations reach others who are still reaching for clarity, direction, and alignment. If you're a founder sensing that your work no longer reflects who you are becoming, there's a room to pause, a grounded space to look at what energizes you, what drains you, and what may be ready to evolve. You can explore that at journeysofempowerment.com and see if it feels aligned. That's how the circle widens, quietly, one listener at a time. Keep going, keep becoming you.